The storm hit hard overnight, burying the cabin in a thick, silent blanket of snow. Tom peered through frost-lined windows. Nothing moved. No birds, no animals. Then came the scratching. Soft, deliberate, waiting. Something was out there, watching, hungry. The wind carried whispers he couldn't understand. The warmth inside felt fragile, fleeting. Winter had brought more than snow. Something ancient had come to the forest. Cabin sat alone in the forest. Snow piled high against roof and walls. Smoke curled from the chimney. Tom chopped firewood, each swing echoing through the stillness. Ellie pressed her nose against frost-lined glass, watching flakes drift lazily to the ground. Lisa stirred soup, steam curling into the cold air of the kitchen. Fire crackled in the hearth, filling the small room with warmth. Trees bowed under the heavy snow. Wind whispered through pines, carrying an eerie, hollow moan. Branch snapped somewhere far, and Ellie flinched. Tom glanced at her. "Just the snow," he said. But something didn't feel right. Scratching came from the cabin's side. Soft, deliberate, waiting. Shadows flickered in the whiteness outside. Shapes too thin, too tall to be deer. Antlers scraped low branches as if brushing against the sky. Eyes glowed yellow in the storm, unblinking, watching. The dog growled, hair standing on end. Ellie stumbled back from the window, soup forgotten on the table. Tom gripped his axe tighter, knuckles white. Whispers rode the wind, soft words he couldn't understand. Lisa's hands trembled. "It's just the wind," she said, though her voice faltered. Deep scratches appeared on the door, long and slow, intentional. Something was watching. Old stories of the Wendigo drifted through Tom's mind, tales he had always dismissed. Hunger in the forest felt real now. Fire flickered, casting dancing shadows that moved too fast, too wrong. Snow whipped against walls, muffling normal sounds, hiding whatever waited outside. The scratching came again, now from the roof. Ellie whimpered, pressing herself to Lisa's side. Tom stared out, every sense alert. The dog barked at empty snow, lunging toward shadows. Outside, a form loomed, tall, emaciated, antlers scraping the sky. Eyes glowing yellow pierced the blizzard. Something patient, something ancient, something hungry. The wind carried soft whispers, promising hunger, promising pain. Firelight flickered across the walls, shadows stretching into shapes that seemed alive. The cabin felt smaller, tighter, as if closing in around them. The scratching on the roof stopped. Silence fell for a heartbeat. Too long. Then a low, rasping breath drifted through the snow. The dog growled again, backing into Tom's legs. Something shifted outside. A shadow passed between trees. Something moved wrong, limbs bending, long and skeletal. It paused, staring, listening, waiting. Hunger radiated from it like heat from fire, but cold at the same time. Tom swallowed hard, heart hammering. The stories of the Wendigo were alive tonight. The creature had come. Snow whipped harder. Visibility dropped to nothing. Ellie cried softly. Lisa pressed her hand over her mouth to keep from screaming. Outside, the creature stepped closer. One antler scraped a tree branch, cracking it in half. Its hollow face was glimpsed through the blur of snow. eyes fixed on the cabin, hunger fixed on them. Tom's axe felt heavier in his hands. Fire flickered again. Shadows on the walls writhed. Something banged on the door. Slow, heavy, long claws scraping wood. Whispers carried through the wind, speaking in a voice older than the forest itself. Ellie's tears fell silently. The dog barked furiously, circling the cabin. The creature waited in the snow, patient. Its hunger filled the storm. The Wendigo had come for them. Fire burned low in the cabin. The wind rattled the windows. Snow piled against the walls, heavy and thick. Ellie hugged her blanket, knees pulled to her chest. Tom checked the fire, then looked out the window. Nothing moved, but he felt eyes on him. Plates on the table were empty, bread gone, soup cold. Lisa frowned. "Did someone eat this?" Ellie whispered she saw a shadow outside. Tom said, "Probably wolves." The dog growled at nothing, ears flat, teeth showing. Snow drifted higher, pressing against the windows. Something moved outside. Heavy, slow. Scratching came again, soft at first, then louder. Whispering voices rode the wind, faint but unmistakable. Ellie trembled. Lisa held her hand. Fear hung in the cabin like smoke. The shadows outside stretched, long and wrong, bending over the snow. Every gust of wind sounded like a growl. Something dragged through the snow, heavy, deliberate. Something waited, patient. The dog barked furiously, then whimpered as claws scraped the walls. A branch broke outside. Tom gripped, raising his axe. Ellie hid her face against Lisa's shoulder. The firelight danced across the walls. Shadows stretched and twisted like living things. One flicker revealed antlers scraping the window frame. Eyes glowed yellow. Hollow eyes. Hungry eyes. Whispers carried promises of pain. Ellie tried to scream, but no sound came. Lisa covered her mouth. The dog circled the cabin, growling. The scratches on the door deepened. Something pressed against it, testing the wood. A cold wind pushed through the cracks, carrying the smell of decay. Tom moved to stand in front of the door, axe raised. The creature outside paused, watching, waiting. The wind carried more whispers. A voice, almost human, rasped, "Hunger? Hunger?" Ellie shivered violently. The cabin felt smaller, tighter, as if the walls themselves were closing in. The fire flickered again. Shadows writhed across the floor. Something moved behind the trees. Long limbs bending wrong, antlers scraping branches. Eyes glowing yellow, staring, never blinking. Hunger filled the snow. The dog growled, backing up against Tom's legs. The creature's breath fogged the windows. Then, silence. Too long. Ellie dared to peek. Nothing there. Just snow. Just trees. But the feeling stayed. Watching. Patient. Hungry. The Wendigo was out there, waiting. Every sound in the storm felt amplified. Every shadow stretched toward the cabin. The scratching returned, slow, deep, deliberate. Claws on wood, claws on snow, whispers riding the wind. Tom held the axe tighter. Lisa whispered prayers under her breath. Ellie's hands shook. The dog growled again, low, warning them. Something prowled, something ancient, something that would not leave until it had fed. And the night stretched on, long and cold. Something pressed against the cabin walls. The dog barked furiously, hair bristling, teeth snapping in empty air. Deep scratches appeared on the door, long and jagged. Antlers scraped the roof, cracking branches above. Eyes glowed through the windows, hollow and yellow, unblinking. Ellie froze behind the table. Tom gripped his hatchet, heart hammering. Lisa pulled Ellie close. "Stay calm, stay calm." The creature's shape was wrong. Limbs bent at odd angles. Ribs jutted under pale skin stretched too tight. Its head tilted unnaturally, watching. Whispering voices rode the wind, almost human, almost mocking. The dog growled, lunged, but slipped on the snow inside. Something heavy dragged itself across the porch. The cabin shuddered with every movement outside. Ellie pressed her face to Lisa's chest, silent tears running down her cheeks. Tom edged to the window, peering out. Snow whipped in his face. The figure stood there, taller than any man, thinner than any animal, antlers like twisted branches, hollow eyes glimmering with hunger. It tilted its head, sniffing the air, listening. The whispers grew louder, clearer, calling their names. Ellie whimpered. Lisa whispered prayers she didn't believe. The creature tested the door, claws scraping, leaving deep grooves in the wood. The wind howled, carrying icy shards against the cabin walls. Shadows danced and stretched, twisting with the firelight. The dog barked again, circling between them. Something moved behind the trees. Long limbs, skeletal, moving wrong. The creature paused, then stepped closer. Its presence filled the snow, hunger radiating like heat from ice. Ellie pressed herself into Lisa's side, shivering violently. Tom lifted his hatchet, legs shaking. The door creaked. Heavy. Something pressed harder. Eyes locked on the small window where Ellie peeked. Hunger, patient, eternal, filled those hollow eyes. Then a snapping sound. A branch broke under the creature's weight. It crouched, antlers scraping the porch roof. Whispers came from all sides. The storm amplified them. Hunger? 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 Ellie tried to scream, but the words caught in her throat. Lisa covered her mouth. The dog barked, low and feral. The creature vanished briefly, leaving only broken snow and dragging marks across the porch. Then it was back, standing taller, limbs unnaturally long, watching, waiting. Breath fogged against the window. The cabin felt suffocating, small, fragile. The fire flickered and shadows leapt across walls, forming shapes that almost seemed alive. The scratching on the roof returned, slow, deliberate, rhythmic. Whispers became words. Hunger promised pain. Hunger promised death. Ellie whimpered and shook. Tom gripped the axe tighter, muscles trembling. Lisa whispered again, a prayer to anything that might hear them. The dog whimpered, pressed against Tom's legs. Something moved in the snow outside, dragging a heavy shape. Footsteps crushed the snow, heavy, unnatural, wrong. The creature's eyes gleamed in every reflection, in every shadow. The wind carried the smell of decay. The creature stepped close, antlers scraping the roof, claws clicking on wood. The cabin walls shook. Hunger pressed against them, cold and unstoppable. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the floor. The dog growled low, warning them. Ellie's hands trembled. Tom whispered her name. Lisa held her close. Outside, the Wendigo circled, patient, eternal, waiting for hunger to claim what it desired. The night stretched on, long and unending, the storm howling, the creature watching, hungry. The family barricaded doors and windows. Snow pressed hard against the walls. Fire barely warmed the room. Supplies were running low. Plates and pots sat untouched, food gone. Whispering voices seeped through cracks, soft but insistent. Ellie refused to move, curling into Lisa's side. Tom paced, hatchet in hand, eyes darting to every shadow. The dog, ears flat, teeth bared. Something scratched the roof, then the walls. Shadows moved against the wind, bending, stretching. The fire flickered, casting shapes that seemed alive. Something dragged itself near the cabin. A branch snapped violently. The creature's claws scraped wood, leaving deep grooves. Ellie, pressing her face into Lisa's chest. Tom, Stay calm. Stay together. The wind carried a voice. Hollow. Old. Hungry. The Wendigo. Outside, snow swirled in a blinding storm. Footprints appeared in the drifts. Too long. Too wide. Too wrong. The dog, lunging at shadows that weren't there. Scratching became pounding, heavy, deliberate. Hunger radiated through the snow, through the walls, through the firelight. Lisa murmured prayers she didn't believe. Something pressed against the door, testing it. The cabin, under the weight of snow and something darker. Shadows twisted on the walls, leaping toward them. Outside, the Wendigo moved with unnatural speed. Limbs bending wrong, antlers scraping low branches, eyes glowing yellow in the blizzard. The whispers grew louder, almost intelligible, calling their names. Ellie clutched Lisa tighter. Tom held the axe, knuckles white, muscles shaking. The dog circled frantically. The creature tested the windows. Its breath fogged the glass. Something dragged a heavy object through the snow. Scratching came again. Claws, nails, something hard and relentless. Hunger pressed on them like ice. Shadows stretched unnaturally, dancing across the cabin walls. Firelight flickered across every corner. The Wendigo's presence filled the snow outside, patient and eternal. Its eyes pierced the darkness. The wind carried more whispers. Hunger promised pain. Hunger promised death. Ellie, pressing into Lisa's side. Tom, her name. Lisa hugged her close. The dog, low and warning. The storm raged. Snow whipped into the windows, the roof. Something pressed against the cabin. Something that would not leave. Hunger circled them in the dark. The night stretched on, long and unending. The Wendigo waited. Outside. Patient. Hungry. Tom decided he couldn't wait any longer. Supplies were gone. Fire dwindling. Food nothing but scraps. He needed to venture out. Ellie cried, clutching Lisa's arm. "Don't leave me, Daddy," she whispered. Wind cut through coats, whipping snow into their faces. Visibility dropped to nothing. Each step was a struggle, boots sinking into knee-deep drifts. The dog followed, growling low, ears flat. Behind them, something moved. Slow at first, then faster. Limbs bending wrong. Antlers scraping snow-heavy branches. Eyes glowing yellow. Hollow. Hungry. The Wendigo stalked silently, patient. Each crunch of snow beneath Tom's boots sounded deafening. The whispers followed them, soft, ancient, hungry. Names called on the wind. Ellie screamed, muffled by Lisa's hands. Tom looked back, nothing but the white storm. Then a shadow loomed. The Wendigo emerged from the snow, taller than any man, skeletal, emaciated. Limbs bending unnaturally, antlers scraping the sky. Its eyes pierced the blizzard. Hunger radiated from it, cold and relentless. The dog barked furiously, lunging, teeth flashing, but the creature barely acknowledged it. Claws tore through snow, scraping wood and ice. The wind carried whispers. Hunger? Hunger? Promises of pain, promises of death. Tom swung his hatchet, hoping to scare it. The air was thick with snow and frost. The creature moved like shadows moving through smoke. Faster, closer. Claws left long gouges in the frozen ground. The dog growled, circling, warning. Ellie pressed into Lisa, trembling, silent tears. The creature lunged. Snow flew into the air. Tom screamed, swinging wildly. Hatchet barely scraped its arm. Hollow eyes stared back, glowing. Hunger. Unstoppable. It grabbed Tom, hands impossibly long, strength beyond reason. He struggled, axe swinging, boots slipping in snow. The creature pulled him into the drifts. Snow swallowed them. Ellie's scream tore through the storm. Lisa reached but couldn't hold on. The dog barked, lunging at nothing, circling the empty snow. Wind howled. Snow whipped against the cabin walls. Inside, Ellie shook, frozen, clutching Lisa's arms. Scratches on the door. Heavy, long, deliberate. Whispers carried through the cracks. Hunger pressed against the cabin, unseen but felt. The fire flickered. Shadows stretched across the floor like living things. Outside, antlers scraped the roof. Something moved around the cabin, circling, patient. Hollow eyes glowed through the storm, yellow and unblinking. The dog whimpered, low and warning. Ellie's tears ran silently. The wind carried voices, rasping, whispering promises of hunger. Outside, the Wendigo dragged Tom into the snow, limbs twisting wrong, pulling him with impossible strength. He screamed, swallowed by the blizzard. The dog barked, lunged, then stopped, frozen. The creature paused, towering over the snow, antlers scraping branches, head tilted, listening, hunting, patient. Hunger radiated from it like ice through bone. Whispers swirled around the cabin. Ellie pressed into Lisa's chest, shivering violently. Firelight danced on walls, shadows moving too fast, twisting shapes. Scratching returned, rhythmic, deliberate. The storm drowned all other sounds. Outside, the Wendigo waited, silent, unbroken, hungry. Hours passed like minutes. The cabin walls groaned under snow, under wind, under something older than the forest. Whispers became words. Names called, soft, threatening, endless. Ellie's eyes wide, staring at the door. Hatchet forgotten on the table, breath shallow, frozen. The dog growled, low, then whimpered. Antlers scraped again, closer. Snow shifted. A shadow passed the window. Hunger pressed through the walls, the firelight, the floors. Ellie could feel it, smell it, taste it. Silent, eternal, patient. The cabin shrank around her. The storm roared outside. Wind, snow, whispers. Then silence. Only the wind, only snow. The Wendigo gone for now. The fire flickered once, then dimmed. Ellie sat alone, trembling, listening, waiting. Hungry eyes had vanished from sight, but not from memory. Every crack in the walls, every shadow, every whisper carried the presence of the creature. Hunger had claimed her father. Her mother clung to her, whispering that he might still be alive. Ellie didn't believe it. Snow piled against the walls, deep and cold. The cabin, once a refuge, now felt like a trap. The Wendigo waited outside, patient, eternal. Winter raged on. Hunger raged on. The storm would not end, and neither would it. The storm broke 2 days later. Rescuers followed a weak emergency call traced to the cabin. The line had been filled with wind, and one clear word: help. When they arrived, the door hung open. Snow filled the porch. Fire inside had burned itself out. The cabin was silent. Ellie was found under the table, wrapped in a blanket, but alive. She couldn't speak at first. Her eyes stayed fixed on the door. There was no sign of Lisa. No blood, no struggle, no tracks leading away, only deep impressions circling the cabin and fading into the trees. A phone was found near the window, cracked but still warm. Ellie later whispered that her mother had called for help while the thing watched from outside, that it stopped scratching, that it waited. Lisa told Ellie to hide and never come out. When the rescuers asked what took her mother, Ellie shook her head. She only said the whispers sounded like her voice calling from the forest. Search teams went out for days. They found broken branches high in the trees. They found antler marks carved into bark. They never found Lisa. The locals said sometimes the wind carries a woman's voice through the pines, calling for her daughter. Ellie never returned to the cabin. She never spoke of that night again. but she refuses to go near the woods in winter. She says something is still hungry, and it remembers her name.